This is the smallest knife that Victorinox makes. I'm going to show you how to make your own custom knives and how I built the world's smallest, largest knife. You know what? You're right, we should make a fire. So why would you make your own custom knife? Well, I mean, maybe red isn't your thing. Maybe you like yellow or another color. Maybe you just want to have different tools inside of your Swiss Army knife. Or perhaps you're like me and you just want to see how far you can take things. So to make your own custom stack up of a knife, all you have to do is just pick the parts that you want inside your knife. Maybe you want a Swiss Army knife entirely made out of scissors. How weird would that be? But you could do it. Or maybe you want to put 6 knives in there. And if you got a 3D printer, you can look on something like Thingiverse and look up scales that you can print. This one has a spot for an SD card in it, which is kind of cool. To start off with, you're going to need a donor knife, maybe 1 or 2 or maybe even 50 of them. Now we're going to be taking these completely apart, so you want to make sure they're not like a gift from Grandpa or something. All Swiss Army knives are basically built and assembled the same way. They have these plastic things on the sides called scales, and they're pressed onto the brass rivets that hold the whole knife together. All you have to do is heat them up a little bit and pry them off with something like a small screwdriver. If you don't heat them up, you run the risk of them breaking like this. So just drop them in a cup of hot water for a few minutes and it'll actually loosen up the plastic. For the purposes of my project today, I'm not interested in saving any of the scales, so I'm actually just going to let them break as I take them off. I'm just going to bypass the hot water step entirely. To disassemble a Swiss Army knife, all you have to do is grind away one side of the brass pins. These are just poked through all the metal parts and mushed together to create a sort of rivet that binds the whole stack together. After you grind the head off of each pin, you can carefully pop the parts off of the pins. At this point, you can throw away the pins. We'll be making new ones. One super important thing to mention is as soon as you grind the rivets off of the stack of parts, they're all spring loaded. So as soon as you take the top off, they might kind of go flying a little bit. Don't be alarmed, this is normal. Everything is under tension, and we'll be putting them back under tension when we assemble them. It might be a good idea that if you take the top metal plate off, if things haven't turned into a yard sale, maybe take a picture with your phone so you know how to assemble it again later. For the new brass pins, I got these from McMaster Car Company. This is 1/16 inch brass rod, or 1.57 millimeters. This is exactly what you're gonna need to assemble your knife again. I opted for longer 12-inch rods for a reason, which you'll see in a little bit. You're also gonna need to get these little tiny brass washers. These are what's gonna help form the head of the rivet and hold everything in place really nicely. These are 1/16 inch inside diameter, 1/8 outside diameter, and 0.05 inches thick. You can also get those from McMaster Car. So I just made this jig that'll help me reassemble the knives. All I did is I took one of the metal plates and I marked the holes, drilled right through the wood with a 1/16 inch drill bit. I made sure the holes are cleaned out really well because you don't want these rods to bind very much. Otherwise it makes the assembly process a little bit harder. So the trick to assembling these things is to work very slowly. Make sure the nail nicks are facing the right way and that everything is going to close up properly. The way I found to get the springs to go in really well is to actually start in the middle and push down with your finger while prying with a screwdriver. Then push on the front of the spring to get it to seat right inside the tool. Once it's seated, it's kind of like a little spring trap. You have to kind of hold it in place and then get that top plate pushed down over the pins really nice and slow. And once it's in there, it's not going anywhere. Then you can add another layer if you want to. After you get your knife stacked up the way you like it, what you have to do is just cut off the brass pins so there's about, I don't know, like an 1/8 inch above, and then grind them down with a little Dremel tool or hand file real gently. Then you want to take the peen end of a ball peen hammer and just round over those rivets, really slowly hitting the top of them until they deform into a nice little rivet head. When it comes time to putting scales on, if you 3D printed your own, you might have to take a little Dremel tool to open up the holes in them just a little tiny bit and then epoxy them onto the knife. Because the process of hammering down the rivet heads is not super precise, you're probably going to have to hog out the plastic a little bit if you intend to put the original scales back on the knife. And if you've lost your toothpick, like a lot of people have, you can actually pick up toothpicks and tweezers and other accessories on eBay or Amazon. They sell them in little packs and you can buy those replacement parts pretty easily. Now this is what I call the McDouble Jr. It's going to be great in my survival kits because it gives me an extra blade and it's a little bigger in my hand, which I like. So as cool as this is, I want to see how much bigger I can make it. How about 50 times bigger? I started the painstaking process of taking apart all the blades. And to make sure all of these blades are super sharp, I'm going to employ the help of my all-time favorite knife sharpener system and the sponsor of today's video, Wicked Edge. I was recently sent the Wicked Edge Gen 4 Pro. And right away, I knew this would be the fastest and best way for me to get these little tiny blades really crazy sharp. The new Gen 4 Pro is absolutely awesome. It makes knife sharpening even easier. You can adjust both sides at the same time with a single button. Dual-sided sharpening is actually patented by Wicked Edge, so they are the experts in this. When you sharpen a blade on this system, if you follow all the steps, you know it's going to be very accurate and extremely sharp. And you're not taking off more metal than you need to. Once you get it out of its case, all you have to do is screw in the 8-inch guide rods. And they even give you this red practice knife that you can use to set up the system for the first time and learn how to use it. The system comes with these really nice microcrystalline diamond stones. They're super easy to use and they work with all of the Wicked Edge systems. The one that I have came with a 100 to 200 grit stone, a 400 to 600 grit stone, and an 800 and 1000 grit stone. And I also have the 2 and 4 micron strop kit so I can get a mirror finish that is very durable for an outdoor edge. So today I'm going to bring these knives up to 1000 grit sharpness level. Now all of the bevels on these knives match perfectly and they're sharpened all the exact same way. Okay, now these knives are all crazy sharp. It's time to assemble this monster. One set of tools, a double stack like this, is about an 1/8 inch thick, metal face to metal face. I need to make sure my brass pins are going to be at least 7 or 8 inches long so I have plenty of space to build the stack up on this knife. 6.25 inches. That's going to be a very big little pocket knife. Okay, so we have the whole stack up completed. So now to finish up the assembly, we just have to cut these rods down and hammer them down into rivet heads. How are we gonna do this? And there we have it, the finished world's smallest, largest knife. I just got to put the scales on it now, but the mechanical assembly is done. Can you imagine all of the memories from each one of these used knives? All these people had these knives in their pocket for so long, and they're so grungy, but now they're all really, really sharp. And this is probably the most useless knife on the planet. But you know what, it's pretty cool. And I've always wanted to do something like this that's just manic, just absolutely mad to make something like this. This would be a great gag gift for somebody. If you carry this in your pocket and you whip this out when you need to use scissors or a screwdriver or a knife, that would probably bring some smiles to the room. You need a knife? I got 50. You need scissors? Oh, here, I got you. I got you right here. I'm putting a set of used scales on this. They're probably the nicest of all of them that I have, and I just want it to be nostalgic still. And that's how I made the world's smallest, largest knife. I hope you found that useful, or at least entertaining. If you haven't checked out this video yet, check it out, because I think you might like it. We'll see you later.